All right, I'm in the provider portal and I'm going to create a temporary closure. Here for this provider, you can see the provider's history of closures, and they had 2 that are already processed or approved by the coalition. Okay, so I'm going to click Add Closure. And you'll see how the look and feel of the closure form has changed. For selecting providers, that's the same. You can either select all or some. I'll just switch a couple of them. Okay. And you notice that the anticipated reopen date field was removed. So now you only need to enter the closed from and closed to dates. Okay. And then enter the closure details. So when the dates are entered, you get this new reimbursement request section. You can also notice that those radio buttons where you would have selected whole site or VPK or SR partial closure, those are gone. And here in this new interface, you'll really be able to enter your specific closure reasons, especially when it comes to partial closures. All right, so let's look at this new reimbursement request section. On the left, you have providers, and these are the providers that I've selected who are involved in the closure. You'll see a no services column here, and these are for whole site closures, and I will come back to that, because I just want to cover the partial closures first. And in the center, depending on which provider is highlighted, the center section will give you the list of that provider's VPK classes, if any, and SR care levels. Okay. And you can see also with the VPK and SR classes care levels tab that there's an indicator here. And this can tell you how many classes or care levels were included in this closure. So right now I don't have any classes selected, so I have 0 out of 2 classes selected and 0 out of 7. Okay. All right, and on the right, you have the class or care level calendar. So again, if I'm on VPK classes, depending on which class is highlighted, the calendar displays for that class, and same thing with the care levels. So the infant, toddler, 2-year-old, and so forth, calendar associated with a care level or class. Okay. So if I want to indicate that class AF22 has a closure, then I would select that class, and I'm asked if I want to make up any of the missed instructional hours. I can say yes or no. And I selected no, and now the closure types have been entered in the calendar. Okay, since I answered no, they default to CR, but if I need to change that, I just simply click on the CR or CN to flip it. Okay. The same thing, if I need to indicate that class BF22 is closed, I get asked if I want to make up any missed instructional hours, and if I say yes, the calendar for the closure period defaults to CN. And again, I can change those if I want to. Right, for SR, you can just easily toggle between VPK and SR if some SR care levels were closed. You just simply select that care level. Okay. And then you can see the closure types, and if needed, if you ever need to make that an SR closure of CN, you can for any reason. All right. So that's how, and you can notice here that out of 2 classes, I've got 2 classes selected for closure. And out of 7 care levels, only 2 were included in the closure. Okay. And you can do the same for the next provider and so on. I'll just say, maybe school age was closed. All right, so that's how you would indicate a partial closure. Okay. Get really specific. All right, so going back to the providers section, if you have a whole site closure, you'll notice this column for no services, meaning no services were offered to any children during the closure period. Okay, and so you can select, for each provider, if that's the case, if Lincoln Marty, if this location was closed, the entire site, you can just select the no services button. But if that's the case for all of the providers listed here, we have an overall no services checkbox that you can select. And you'll get the message that by selecting no services for all providers, all classes and care levels have been automatically selected for the closure. Okay. So since I have the no services boxes checked, if I go over, I'm in this provider here, if I go over to their VPK classes, I can see that the system has automatically selected the entire programs. Okay. And while these checkboxes are selected, you won't be able to deselect anything because we're indicating that no services were provided to anyone. Same here, same with this provider. Everything is involved in the closure. Okay, if for some reason, actually, something was open, a class or a care level was open, I can deselect the no services checkbox, and I'll get a message that although the no services checkbox has been deselected for all providers, existing class and care level sections were not modified, and to please deselect the classes and care levels that should not be included in the closure. So, meaning I just deselected the no services box, but if I look at the classes and care levels, the the classes and care levels remain selected. And so you just need to go in and deselect the ones that were open. Okay. And you can actually use the no services kind of as a tool, because it might be fewer clicks if maybe you only have one or two classes or care levels that are open and the rest are closed. Maybe it's a fewer clicks to just go ahead and select everything and then go in and select the one or two that were open. So that's just another way you can use that no services checkbox, as a tool, other than using it as an indicator for a whole site closure. Okay, and same thing, if I toggle to another provider, I can see that 1 out of 1, the entire program selected, and same thing here. And so if I need to, deselect any that were open, I would just click on the box. Okay, and you can make sure that before you submit that the classes and care levels have the correct type. Okay. I go here. One class had CR and one class had CN. All right, let me just go ahead and finish my closure form. I'll just select the closure reason. So I'm submitting this closure form and I have to sign it as the provider. And now you can see that my closure is in submitted status and I can view the form as the provider. Okay. My 2 providers that I've selected, my closure period, I do not have no services selected, and I can see which classes were open, or closed rather, were involved in the closure.